Hey guys, today I'm talking to Graham, who is one of our recent students. He's going to share his three-house development where he's going to be making, around $1 million, something like that from that deal. So welcome on, Graham, and hopefully I got that $1 million profit thing right.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, well, not close. I think it's probably about 900, but yeah, there's definitely been a bit of growth in the market that's helped me get that. So yes,
Yeah, awesome. We'll round it up to a mil. Sounds better.
sounds awesome.
Graham, you're based in Perth. You do property full time, and you're a former sales agent. I got that.
Yeah, I sold new homes for about 9 years, and then I also did FICO for a couple of years before I went into full-time property flipping, and now working my way into development.
Yeah, awesome. Sounds good. So the thing I love about you, Graham, is that you basically did the same thing that I did. Is I wanted to get educated on doing property, so I just went all in and did like 4 or 5 courses, and it
Yep.
didn't matter what they cost. I just did them all, and then I had to make it work, just because it was so expensive to do the courses. So credit to you, you did however many courses you did over a period of a year, and then you just went hard, and obviously all that hard work and education has paid off substantially. And now you're doing property full time. So just to get into it, just explain to people or just tell us about what your deal is, how you set yourself up with this property development deal, and you are doing other projects, other property deals as well. So just to kick it off, tell us what the deal is, just really high level, and how you found it, and then we'll jump in and have a look at where it is and all that stuff. So
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
leave
for
it over to
sure.
you.
Yeah, cool, cool. So yeah, obviously, property flipping's my main, my main deal. That's what I do. Obviously, I teach other people how to flip houses for profit, but development is obviously, bigger and juicier, I suppose, bigger deals. So yeah, so obviously I jumped into your program. It was a while ago now. And yeah, obviously landed a triple X deal, which is my first development deal. But like I said, I've probably done about 25 property flips. So it is completely different though. So, with obviously buying and renovating and flipping, it's just one property, you're adding value to that property and you're selling it. Whereas with development, it's obviously a bigger thing. It's you're going to do a duplex, triplex, quad, land split. There's so much more so much more to it, I suppose, more to learn. I sort of crunched the numbers for a little while, trying to work out what was going to make money and what didn't. And obviously, I've had a lot of success with the property flipping, and I found that I was trying to make the numbers work for development. And what I sort of found is that the triplex sites where I was able to retain a dwelling, they were probably the deals that looked like they were stacked up better than your other triplexes and stuff, because you obviously only have to build two new dwellings instead of one. You've only got to renovate the other dwelling. So yeah, so that was the deal that I secured. Yeah, getting close to the finish at the moment. But what was really attractive about the deal was what it was also that it was perfectly flat, so there was not much retaining, or,
Yeah.
pretty much no retaining. But also being a corner meant I got three street frontages, and the existing dwelling was positioned well enough on the site where I essentially could build either side of it. So that was what was attractive about the deal. At the time, when I secured the deal, it certainly wasn't as profitable as it is now, but obviously that's the importance of buying in the right market at the right time, using data and that sort of stuff, so that way that the area that you get into is on the way up, and preferably not on the way down. So yeah, so I've been lucky to have some substantial growth on that deal so far, but it's still under construction. One of them, well, obviously the existing dwelling was renovated, and that was renovated some time ago, probably a year ago. One of the dwellings should be ready before Christmas, and the other one we've had some hold up, so that'll be sometime early next year.
Okay, so it was a three-house development. You bought it with one existing property that you renovated, and then you built two new houses on either side of the existing house.
Yeah,
Yeah.
correct. Yep,
Okay,
yep.
awesome. So just for everyone's knowledge, what we'll do, or just for their info, what we'll do is I'll get you to share your screen, show us where it is, and it is in Perth, so it's in the southwestern region of Perth, if I've got that right.
Yeah, you could say that. I mean, it's certainly by no means a high-end suburb. It's certainly not, but it's surrounded by good suburbs. So if you can
Yeah.
obviously see my screen, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's in close proximity to Fremantle. close to the coast.
Yeah. So just so everyone knows, it's the red dot or the red.
It's the red dot here. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, if you have a look at these suburbs above here, these are all like premium suburbs around the river and stuff like that. But this sort of as you get sort of further south here, it's not less desirable. It's obviously all booming at the moment here in these suburbs, booming everywhere in Perth at the moment. But yeah, I mean, I suppose what I'm trying to say is the suburb itself, and one of the reasons why I obviously chose it, it was, had some high density rezoning. So it's an R60 for anyone that's from WA. So I could have put more on it. I probably could have put 4 on it. Could have done apartments on it, but the apartments just wouldn't work in that suburb. And also putting 4 on would have meant I would have had to have knocked down the existing dwelling, and obviously after doing the numbers and stuff like that, the best option was to retain the existing dwelling and build 2 more. So that's where it's in comparison. I mean, the city's obviously above up here, so good thing about this location, and what I like about it, even though it traditionally is a bit of an ugly duckling suburb, but it's obviously transforming a lot, is that this here is the freeway. We've only got one freeway in Perth, but it runs straight up the middle here, so easy access to the freeway to get into the city. And then obviously easy access to get into Fremantle. So yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Okay. And just give us the zoom in. So now we know it's 10 kilometers southwest-ish from Perth CBD, if I've got the distance right, hopefully.
Oh, I'd say it's a bit more than 10. You probably...
What are you, 15?
Yeah, maybe just a tad more, I'd say. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, it made it sound a lot better at 10. So it's still...
Yeah. Look, it's still a desirable location. I mean, as far as it's, infrastructure and amenities and all that sort of stuff in the area is really, really good. And I think location-wise, it's really, really favourable, and that's one of the reasons what's so good about this suburb is because for the location, the surrounding suburbs like these suburbs, Fremantle, Beaconsfield, Hilton, and Cardinia, and Murdoch, for example, the median house price in those suburbs is much higher.
Yeah, wow.
Much higher. Yeah. So it taps onto these suburbs where first home buyers and that can't afford these sorts of suburbs. I mean, it's getting out of reach in here probably for a lot of first home buyers. I mean, when I purchased it was 600, but you wouldn't get it. For this development site now, you'd be 950 or something like that.
Yeah, so you bought it well. You bought it in a growth market.
Yeah.
You checked all the data analysis, and Perth was still growing at the time. And I think I analysed this suburb around the same time you bought it. And I said, I think the suburb's going to keep going okay for the next 12 months or so. And
it was funny because when you did that, you actually analysed this suburb, and I literally just secured it, and you were also analysing, I remember, a suburb called Warnbro, and coincidentally that region was where I was flipping all the houses at the time, and it was just coincidence.
There you go. It's good places to be flipping and buying. So just zoom in and give us an idea on what the property looks like for those people that are looking at doing development.
Yeah. Okay. So
you touched on the corner with the dual street frontage, which is gold.
Yeah. So obviously this one, if we zoom in, so yeah, corner site here, and then basically it was a big 900 lot site, and I've subdivided into three lots. So the existing house is in the middle, and then building either side of it.
So just zoom in a bit more and give us a satellite view.
I don't even know if I've got satellite view on here. Is that down the side here?
On the layers, go bottom left before you get to go left. No, a bit to the right, down. to the right. A touch.
Over here?
There you go. Click. No, left more, left. Where it says layers. Down just to the... there you go. We got it.
Gotcha. All right, here we go.
All right, so you can see the existing house in the middle, and then you got 2A and 2C either side of it. So that's where you're building the new houses, either side of it.
Correct, building on 2A and 2C. Obviously, it must be an old photo because there's no dwellings there now, but 2A, obviously 2C, has roof cover and everything now, whereas 2A, like I said, there's been a hold up, so there's a slab on that side. So, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Okay. And you've got the site plan on the other tab. We were prepared for that. Do you want to just flick to the site tab now that we've... Oh, sorry, the overall site plan.
Yeah. So, can you see that?
Yep, got it.
Cool. Now, I've just realised this is not quite right, this one. So, this was the initial concept plan. So, lot 2 is actually bigger than 319, and lot 3 is smaller than 347, so there's a bit, it sort of comes down here somewhere. But yeah, lot 2 and 3 are similar size.
Yeah, awesome. Okay. So how long, actually, before I jump into a bit further into the deal, I know people want to find out exactly how you found it and how you came across it, how you bought it, all that stuff. We're going to save that for a bit later. What I want to just touch on is a bit more about your background and how you got started on this deal, and also mention about the flipping, because I think that that is important as well for people that are looking at either doing flipping or development or just general property investing, really.
Yeah, yeah. Well, look, my story was that I obviously from Perth and got into started investing when I was 25, and that would have been just post GFC. And obviously, anyone that knows the Perth market, it was a terrible market from 2009 when I bought my first property to 2020. So I did all the wrong things, bought in all the wrong places, had a few investment properties. They were heavily negatively geared. I was also selling new homes at the time. So I was in commission only role selling new homes. Look, did really, really well from that for a long time. But then there was a stage towards 2019 where I decided to get out when the market in Perth was really at the bottom.
Yeah.
But I loved property, and I actually took a couple of years out and I went and worked FIFO, and I was sort of figuring out what I wanted to do. I knew property was obviously my passion. Coincidentally, I had an investment property that got absolutely trashed by tenants, and I needed to do something about it. And the only thing I could do, obviously, was renovate it. So that's what I did, and then that was a bit of a light bulb moment for me as to, okay, there's something in this property flipping thing. Fast forward 3 years, I've flipped 25 properties. So I've done 25 renos. I've flipped a lot of them, probably kept about 5.
Yeah,
Um,
awesome.
yeah, so that's my story, I suppose. And then development's just a natural progression, right? Like you want to just keep expanding your skill set. So, um, you know, property flipping can be great. You can make 50, 100, $150,000 profits, but if you want to make, 500,000, $1 million profits, you probably need to be doing property development. And as you mentioned at the start, like I've done a lot of programs myself. I've done, property flipping development with you. I've done, quite a few other courses myself. Data as well. They've done lots of different stuff, and that's I suppose the story. That's how I sort of got started and what got me looking for this deal. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for that. And hopefully that resonated with some people as well. If you're either flipping or just doing normal property investment, maybe the next step up. I know we do have a lot of people that flip or that just buy investment properties and then they just want to know what's next.
Yeah.
What's next?
I mean, and the good thing was obviously having the experience in the renovating and flipping. I was able to look at the dwelling on this property and renovate it. So that's what we did. Renovated the existing one straight away, and then yeah.
All right, cool. Now that everyone's seen the deal, there are some photos. Do you have those photos in front of you? Do you want to just share a couple of those photos? Or we'll put them up on the screen, might be better. Just hit the stop share and we'll get them up on the screen when we do the edits later and show some of the more recent photos of the houses being built. But just some other things about the deal, which I know people will be begging me to ask you. So how did you go about finding it in the first place?
Yeah, well, so letterbox drops is how I pretty much find all my deals. So whether it's flipping and then also for this as well, for the development one was exactly the same. I did a letterbox drop and that's how I found the deal. Coincidentally, like this is the only coincidental property that I've found out of all the properties I've got from letterbox shops. But it turned out my wife actually, we were way down south in Margaret River, and my wife got a phone call from a lady that she worked with that came up on her phone. Oh, Lynn's calling me. And then she was on the phone and I could hear them talking about this house that she had for sale. And I was just like, my wife's not into real estate like I am. And then I was like sounding there eager, like, what's going on here? Like, and then she's like, she got the phone. She was like, oh, Lynn got our letter. Like, she wants to, she's obviously her mum died. It's a deceased estate. Anyway, so obviously quickly, jumped on, whatever program I had at the time and realised, well, I think it could be a good opportunity, that one. And yeah, so it was just a bit of it was very easy to get it because when we actually met with them, my wife already had the relationship with her. That was, so it was one of those deals that was,
okay, so that's one deal. And if people are thinking, oh, well, I don't have, my wife my wife's friend's mum didn't die and I can't buy a house, so that way I can't find a development site. What about the other 25 properties that you've flipped?
Yeah, so
Been under market?
I buy everything off market, right? And that's been my
100%.
secret to success. So, and everything it all comes down to being able to, when you go and, let's say, for example, you get it through a letterbox drop or whatever, it's all about being able to meet with people, being able to build rapport, find what their motivation is for selling, and then create a win-win. And the funny thing is, not everybody is motivated by money. So sometimes you need to figure out what it is that they want so you can give them that, which enables you to get the deal. So yeah, so sometimes people need something now rather than just the money at the end of the deal. So if you can give them that,
Absolutely.
then that's what gets
and half the
you on.
time it's like 5 or 10 grand.
Yeah, it could be money up front. Yep.
It might be
100%.
well, the ones I've seen might be like credit card, or the son or daughter needs some money instantly, and if you're a homeowner, you can't go and sell a brick to get $10,000, and unless you've got the income for the serviceability, it's hard for a lot of owners. Just speaking from experience with development sites, they can't get a loan, or it's very hard for them to get a loan, even though they own nothing on the property. They might have a $2 million property, but they're short of 10 grand and they just don't have the cash.
Yeah, 100%. And on top of that, a lot, when houses that I buy, a lot of the time they are derelict, right? And there's crap everywhere. So sometimes it's just too big a task for them to clear the property to sell it. So if you buy it as is and you take it as is, that can be enough, that you're taking that burden off them, of them having to, get rid of car bodies in the backyard, or, whatever, it's a hoarder's house or whatever it might be. I've had situations where I've had people wanting to go somewhere else, and they own the house they own the house outright. They want to move from A to B, but they've got no money to be able to put a deposit down on the next house that they're going to buy. So if you can, release that money front for them so they can go and put down a deposit. There's so many things that, I know people that have had people that have needed to go interstate and, paid their air tickets and stuff like that. You've got to find out what's driving them. And if you can give them that, then there's a good chance you'll get the deal.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for the insight. So with this deal, was it below? Did you buy it under market value? Was it at market?
Yeah, this one I wouldn't say was super below market. It was probably, at the time, I paid 600 for it, and I reckon it was probably worth 650 to 675.
Okay.
But it wasn't. Yeah, well, it was just that it worked because it was a triplex, because it was an existing dwelling, because I was able to build 2 new ones. It stacked up at the time. It wasn't like crazy profit at the time. Like there was probably 350 or something like that in it at the time.
Yeah.
So
I remember you mentioning it to me, and I remember that the number was about 350, and I think it was close to 20. I think it was just a touch under 20% margin.
Yeah, it was around the 20% mark. It was tight, right? But at the same time, I knew what was happening in WA and Perth. I knew that the lower end of Perth, where there was a lot of buyer activity and prices were starting to pump, but I knew this part of town hadn't yet, and I knew obviously it would. And I looked at data, and that was indicating that that strong growth was sort of approaching, sort of thing. So it was really the timing that made this deal work, and that's so timing was so I mean, don't get me wrong, like it was at 350, it was still nothing to sneeze at, really, like it wasn't an overly expensive deal, but at the same time, buying in the right area at the right time, if you can ride that market growth, and that obviously makes a big help. Helps a lot.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely the cream. So you bought it for 600. It's probably worth 10% more, 660. So you got some equity at the start of it. You were projecting 350-ish profit, which is now almost tripled on that. And that's the power of development. And keep in mind, if the market goes the other way, your profits can also diminish quite substantially. It's because of the duplication factor, because you're building 3. And obviously, if you're building 33, it duplicates more up or down. So the data is pretty important. You don't want to be, and you mentioned it before, You want to be in an up market if you can, or at least a flat market, but you definitely don't want to be buying any property, especially not a development site, in a down market, because you'll
100%.
duplicate
Yeah.
your losses
Yeah.
in
And
a
I think,
similar way.
yeah, and I think everyone now has that at your fingertips. Like it probably wasn't, the data and that sort of thing wasn't as available now, or sorry, a while ago, as it is now. So, if you've got the right people in your corner, you can just look at basic supply and demand, how much sales are happening, how much supply there is, and you can work out what way a market is, heading, whether it's going up or down or not doing much at all. So, yeah.
Generally, until we hit the top, and it
Yeah.
comes down the
Well,
other
I mean, but at the same time, when it's had too much growth, you've got to obviously be a bit mindful that
Very.
that there's probably going to be a correction at that end as well. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
like, I'm certainly in Perth at the moment. I'm very mindful of where I'm buying at the moment, because you don't want to get caught out by buying at the top. So but it's the thing, like even in Perth at the moment, even though we've had so much growth, that growth has been in different areas of the market.
Yes, yeah, I have seen that as well. There's some inner city pockets that I looked at not that long ago that were only like mid-cycle, like they've hardly had any growth. I was actually very surprised that they came up on the radar. Whereas like those outer ring suburbs, a lot of them have had phenomenal growth, like 100%. You mentioned about some of yours, like 100% growth over the last 2-3 years. Whereas some inner ring suburbs are 20-30% growth maybe. So there's
100%.
really undervalued properties sitting in Perth. You just got to know which ones, obviously.
For sure.
All right, what else do I want to ask you? What do people want to know? So you found it off market, you letterbox dropped to find it, and you mass letterbox dropped the whole suburb in this particular instance. And
it's not a big suburb. There's probably only, I wouldn't say there'd be much more than, because I only letterbox drop the older homes. So because there is
so you
new
were
development in there.
You were selective on which ones.
Because it's not a big suburb, so you wouldn't have many more than, be less than 1,500 older homes, sort of thing.
I suppose.
And then with I actually just recently letterbox dropped this suburb again. So I only literally letterbox dropped this suburb maybe a month ago.
Yeah.
But I actually, there was probably only about 1,200 homes on full blocks in the suburb.
Yeah, right. Okay. So let's rewind back one. How did you know to letterbox drop this suburb in the first place?
Well, I'm actually kind of from the area, and initially growing up. So, but it was more about, okay, like I wanted to do.
That's all well and nice, and there's areas that I'm from, but I'd never developed there.
Yeah. Well, look, it came down to the right zoning for one.
Yeah.
So that
you
was
only letterbox drop that particular zoning, is that right?
Well, so for example, in this council, there's only a handful of suburbs which can be rezoned. So for one,
rezoned or developed,
or rezoned for development. So initially it was R20 back in the day, and then probably however many years ago they changed it. So there's selective streets within the suburb that are R30, R40, R60. So this has the highest zoning in the suburb, this particular location.
And just for everyone's knowledge, the R30, 40, 50, and 60, which is very specific to Perth and WA, that's just the density, right? So basically 60 is better than 30, as in you can do more on there.
Yeah. So what it actually means is 60 dwellings per hectare. R40 is 40 dwellings per hectare. R30, 30 dwellings per hectare. So that's how it actually works. But yeah, look, like I said, for me, it was all about, like, I knew that the lower end suburbs in Perth where you could develop, the numbers didn't stack up.
Yeah.
So for me, it was about choosing a suburb that wasn't too expensive, but at the same time, I thought had imminent growth was close. And my strategy was, I mean, even from your course, it was always like, pick a niche, what's it going to be? So I knew what I was going to do. I was looking for a triplex. I wanted to retain the dwelling. So it wasn't just this suburb I was looking at. There was other suburbs, but that was, I was sort of ideally chasing that. Now, not all of those houses in this suburb would have been the case. Yeah. But yeah, obviously a lot of the corner sites offered that.
Yeah, cool. And just another question that I just thought of as well that people are going to ask: why is it beneficial to retain the house as opposed to demolish and build 4, for example. So this particular site, you could have demolished the house and put 4 on there, but instead you kept the house and then you only did the 2. So from like somebody looking at this for the first time, they're thinking, well, isn't 4 houses better than 3? So just explain to us what the advantage is. People don't know.
Yeah, so it comes down to obviously how much the construction costs are going to be. So, I could have put 4 on this one, and they would have been, at the time, it would have been about 300 grand per dwelling.
That's construction cost, you mean?
Construction cost, yeah. So it would have cost to build 4 houses would have been 1.2. But the advantage of retaining 1 house is you've only got to renovate it. So you're not actually having.
What was that, like 40 grand?
Oh, look, you could easily renovate for less than 100K.
Yeah. So what did you spend on the renovation of the house?
Well, I spent a bit more because we converted it to a 4x2 from a 3x1.
Okay. Yep.
That does give it significant uplift. So, and there was other things because we decided to live in this property for a little while. So we did extra things that we didn't need to, like a wall at the front, electric gate, and all that sort of stuff. So we made the spec better than if I was just going to keep it purely as a rental at the start. So we ended up spending 140 or something like that on it. Okay. But at the moment, all up, it owes us about 1.5 this development, and it's probably worth about 2.4 at the minute.
Yeah, wow, awesome, good on you. So ultimately, you spent 140 on the reno to get a house that was worth what, 600,000, 700,000? Is that the
existing house?
Yeah, correct.
No, just before we had this call, I thought I'd better check what the prices are looking like. And there's a 3x1 renovated that just sold for 750 in the suburb. Okay. And so this is a 4x2, and the land size on this was slightly bigger. So this one here, I'd be saying it's probably around the 800.
Yeah, gotcha.
The new dwelling next door will be probably mid-8s. Yeah. And then obviously it's got a brand new dwelling on it. It's a bigger, it's a decent sized home. And then the one on the smaller side will probably be around the 750. So 750, 850, probably about 2.4. Personally, I reckon the one I'm living in would get more than 800 now, but I'm being conservative.
Yeah, okay. So what I just wanted to highlight for people watching that haven't done a development before, or maybe you have, is the intrinsic value in retaining an existing house. So you bought the whole property for 600,000. You spent 140 on the renovation. So just for rough numbers, like to be just to keep it simple, 600 plus 140. So you're up to 740. Obviously, you got stamps and other costs in there. So let's just say 750 is the cost, and you now have a house that's worth 800. So you've basically gotten the 2 blocks of land for free. So where you're building these 2 new houses, you basically haven't paid anything for that land. Now you've got subdivision costs and all that, so that might have been another 50 grand or whatever. But just for simple purposes, and this is why retaining existing dwellings is really key, is you end up buying the property and keeping the house on a 3rd block of land, and you get the other 2 blocks of land for free. So that's where a lot of the profit has come from. Whereas if you had to demolish that house, demolition costs would have been what, 20, 30,000 to demolish it maybe. And then you would have put 2 in its place. But then you would have had to build those houses from scratch. So you're demolishing it only to realize the land value versus renovation. It's easy, quick. You can get rental return from it straight away. And the other key is there's no GST. So you probably saved $60,000 in GST because it's not a substantial renovation. It was just hopefully it wasn't substantial. It's a cosmetic renovation, so you don't pay GST. Whereas if you build a new house and the intent is to on-sell it, you generally pay GST on that. So on those 2 new homes, if you sell them, you'll pay GST on them. Just one last thing that I want to ask you about as well. So now that everyone kind of understands that retaining the existing house was the best use of the site and you extracted the most value out of it, what are you planning to do at the end, and whether your plans have changed or whatever? But I know when we spoke last time, you were going to keep all of them. Is that still the case?
Yeah, so I suppose I'm in a position at the moment to accumulate more properties. So there's just no benefit to me to sell these properties. Okay. So they're just going to stay as part of it. I mean, the other good thing about about the development strategy as well is, like you said, because you're getting those 2 blocks for free from doing the development, it increases the rental yield dramatically for the 3 properties. So the 3 properties will be pretty much, they'll be neutral. Like, they're not going to be putting much money in my pocket, but they're not going to be a burden. They're not going to be taking money out of my pocket. So yes, I mean, and that's something that I've been mindful of is, I'm looking for another development site at the moment, and I am looking to keep. I'm not looking to, like, my flipping is my cash flow, if that makes sense. My development strategy at the moment is for me to keep, for properties to keep. So I'm looking for another site at the minute, probably something similar to this. Haven't found anything yet, but sort of, definitely actively looking. But like, if I was to go, pay 800, $1 million for a house, and the yield's going to be terrible. It's going to be taking a lot of money out of my pocket. Whereas as a development site, because I don't want to buy in those outer ring, areas, I'd rather buy in a better area and develop it, have 3, and then, it dramatically increases the yield for sure.
Yeah, awesome. Okay. Well, I know we touched on servicing a little while ago, and I'll wrap it up with this, with the keeping side of things. Did you end up implementing structures and things so that you could keep them? Did you end up transacting the land into separate structures? And we don't need to go into this in heaps of detail, but I just wanted you to touch on it for other people.
I was going to, but I decided in the end with the tax bill that it was going to get from putting them into the other, I decided not to. But the reason I decided not to was because, they're all in the same entity, but they're, like I said, it's going to be neutral anyway. So after speaking to the accountant, which is the same accountant you've got, we felt it wasn't going to really massively have any issue on my serviceability or anything like that. And I also spoke to my finance broker about that as well. So I was comfortable just leaving them. But I do, with the other properties I'm purchasing, they are in separate trusts to obviously help with accumulation, and also to help with serviceability.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. I know we discussed about the structure, about transacting it, but your intent even at the start was to retain and to build, well, hopefully long-term wealth, especially in the growth market.
Yeah. I mean, at the start, my plan was to offload these, and then, like I said, I mean, obviously, when you're buying a development site, you're typically going to buy it in a company anyway. So it's not like So I purchased it in a company. It's still in the same entity, but I'm just holding on to all 3 rather than selling.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. So just to recap, so high level numbers, bought it for 600. You're going to spend, let's see if I can remember what you said, 1.5 total. So the 900 in costs, and then it's going to be worth 2.4. So it's about 900.
Yeah.
Profits.
So the 2, so the build price, the construction cost was 625. So I purchased it for 600. Construction cost was 625. So that's 1.25.
Does that include the renovation as well?
Yeah, no, and then the renovation
on top of that,
plus the renovation, and then obviously the rest of it gets eaten up with the development cost and holding cost.
Yeah, gotcha.
But and obviously the other thing with the holding cost, it was like, well, because I moved into the existing dwelling, that was one of the reasons why I moved in here. Like, the loan on this property when I bought it, because I put down the deposit, I think there was only $390 owing on this house. And because obviously serviceability and that sort of stuff is important to me to obviously accumulate more property, and then also because I do a lot of flipping, that's why we moved in here, for a year. Well, I think we plan to be out of here by Christmas, but that's why we moved in. It was like, we've got this house now. There's bugger all owing on it. We're doing the development either side. Let's just live in it, see out the development, and then then all 3 will become rental properties.
Yeah. And you're still married.
Still married, yeah. Well, I mean, the house is a bit small. The house is small,
living in the middle of the construction site.
Like, you don't. There's a fence either side, so it's not like, it's not that bad.
Yeah, cool one. All right, last one. What are some lessons that you've learned from the development, from flipping? Just some, I won't say advice, but some things that you've done that you wish you knew before, or things that you want to impart on other people. Give us some words of wisdom.
So obviously one would always be the highest and best use of land, which is, it's completely different to flipping. Like, with flipping, it's just, you look at one house, you how do you add value to that property? But it's only through renovation. But when it comes to development, it's like I said, I could have put 4 on this. So you've always got to be thinking, well, what's going to give me the best return on this? So sometimes it's not about just running one feasibility. You've got to run 2 or 3 to see what's going to work best. So that's obviously a big learning. I think with development, I think, data and timing the market is really important because, especially in a town like Perth, because, we are reliant on mining and we've had some, big downturns and stuff like that. So, and having, grown up in Perth and, a good decade, had no growth because of being born at the wrong time or buying my first house at the wrong time.
Well, you're making up for it now.
Yeah. So because of that, I think, timing the market and looking at data and making sure that you're buying at the beginning of the cycle is a big learning for development, because the last thing you want to be doing is trying to sell when during a correction. I'd say that they'd be 2 big learnings.
Yeah, cool. Good on you. What about just one last thing? What's the difference between you having done it, kicked goals, absolutely smashing it now, versus somebody else that either went through my program or one of the other courses that have done nothing? And I'm just going to point to the elephant in the room, because people are going to watch these videos and they're going to think, well, Graham grew up in Perth and he's a sales guy. He did sales for 9 years and blah, blah, blah. All that stuff is going to run through your mind. But ultimately, can other people do it, or what's different from you versus someone else? What makes you so special that you can make $1 million from this, do 25 flips, spend 100 grand on courses or whatever you spend?
It's what you said before. Some people do nothing, some people hustle.
Okay. So it's as easy as that. That's a good answer. I agree with that.
That's what it is, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. You either do it or what's the saying? There's either excuses or results. You can't have both. Something like that. Whatever that's saying.
I think some people are just too risk adverse as well. Like obviously you've got to do your due diligence on a deal, but some people, they just, there's always that what if sort of thing. It's like, well, mate, you don't have anything now. Like, oh, what if I lose my house? Like you've got a house and you've got a $800,000 mortgage on it and you've got 100 grand equity in it. Like, what if you lose it? Who cares? Buy another one later. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's like what you're worried about losing. A lot of the time, it's more about the fear of like what other people think of them, or the fear of failure. They're not, but what about if they make it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, people focus on the wrong thing. Focusing on the what if this happens and not focusing on the end result, which is you buy a house, you flip it or you develop it, and lo and behold, you took the leap of faith and it's paying off and you got in at the right time of the market. But it wasn't just by fluke. Well, part of it might have been fluke, sure. Luck, you live in Perth, but you also backed yourself because you did courses and it gave you more confidence. And it wasn't just me saying that Perth was going up, even though
I mean, all the people
I
that
was
say to
probably
me
better than everyone else. Just a big
all the people that say to me that I had luck because I've been in Perth, I'm like, okay, that's fine, but
that's good.
You live in Brisbane, you live in Melbourne, you live in Sydney. You've already had that growth cycle.
Yep.
What were you doing when there was that growth cycle there? Secondly, like I said, I bought my first property in 2009 in Perth, bought another one in 2010, bought another one in 2013. I had 3 properties in 2020 that were basically no equity, like no growth, and they were negatively geared. They've been costing me. So I made all those mistakes for like over a decade. And I was in a position, because I had negative equity for some time, I was in a position where I couldn't really off sell unless I was to make it, a pretty decent loss. So like so for me, getting educated, was okay, what do I need to do to to make the right decisions? And so that, I just put my head down, and like I said, I did your course. I've probably done 8 courses. So learn from different people, and then that's how you make the right decisions. And I think you create your luck. You don't just get lucky.
Yeah, agreed. Luck favors the brave. And I think if you do enough deals, you end up being lucky on one of them or 2 of them. And I think you had the run of bad luck, or that whole decade, and I can relate to that. And then you get to a point where you're just like, shit, I'm going to do something and actually make money from it.
Yeah. My only regret over the last few years is that I didn't buy 2 more of these development sites.
Oh, there you
2
go.
years ago.
There you go. Thanks for that good plug on the development side of things. But
Yeah.
you've done okay. I mean, you've done the flips, the development. You've been in a market that had no growth, and then you've just gone all in. So credit to you. There's not many people that have done that, but it pays off, and you're a good example for other people that are just maybe on the fence, whether it's my course, your course, other people's. I think the biggest takeaway is you've done, you said what you're going to do, like you did what you set out to do. I was exactly the same. So, you and I have both gotten results in our respective fields. And I think coming in, starting fresh, don't think that you can just go out and buy a property and make $1 million like you from a development side. Like it might happen, you might get lucky, but I think as I've seen, there's only like the 1% of people that get lucky, and the other 99% they don't. And if you at least educate yourself, spend the money on 5, 10 grand, 20 grand, whatever the course is, it's going to pay for itself 10
Yeah,
times over.
100. Well, that's the thing. I mean, if you put your head down, you'll easily get the money back and some if you
Yeah.
if you invest in the right programs and you put the work in, like, you know, it's going to pay off. But the issue is a lot of people, like, they just don't do it. Like, like they have the best intentions, but they're just not motivated enough. Like their why is obviously not big enough. Like why
Yeah.
they want. So
Yeah, we either move towards pain, away from pain or towards pleasure, right? So you've either
yeah.
got that, whatever you're going to achieve, that car or the house, you're either moving towards that as the pleasure or whatever that is for you or other people, or retirement, or it's normally the pain. The pain is more
Yeah, it's funny you
heartache
should think.
than,
It's funny you should think that. I honestly think a lot of my motivations is to move away from the upbringing that I had, and
yeah,
yeah. So I think although I want to be rich and have all the all the finer things in life, but you know, growing up, without much and living in rental properties and not going to a good school and not living in good suburbs and all that sort of stuff. For me, that was the motivator to yeah, be different.
yeah, cool. I can relate to that. I'm sure other people can. Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
moving away from the pain or to the better life or whatever it is. And
sure.
yeah, freedom, I think, is what most people are chasing. But I think
Yeah,
we're,
for sure. I mean, it's a grind out there. Like everyone, everyone talks about the cost of living and all that sort of thing. Like, it was only a few years ago that we were, when I went FIFO for 2 years, like it was a struggle. Like it was, me and my wife were just talking about the other day, and it's like, now we just, we're going to Cable Beach next week, to take the family. We got back this year from Japan holiday, like, so it can change so quickly for you if you put the work
yeah,
in. But the thing is, most people are just not striving to get away from their situation. They have that victim mentality, and it's like too hard. And everyone else that's doing well is a cheat or thief or whatever. So yeah, I have a very obsessive mindset. Like whatever my goal is, I'm all in. So, and I think like well, it's probably not a good thing, but I struggle to turn off my brain and my goal and my vision and that sort of thing. I'm just always like, and so
yeah,
it'd be nice to have that better balance or whatever. And hopefully once I, you know, yeah, hopefully I get, I can get there and obviously, and, and have a better balance. But the thing is, I enjoy it so much as well. So it's not like I'm tunnel vision on what I want to do, and I work a lot and I put in a lot of hours and all that sort of stuff. But at the same time, like it gives me like a lot of pleasure, and it's always that thrill of a chase and trying to find a new deal and all that sort of stuff. It's exciting, like there's nothing worse than going to a job and it's like you're just sitting there looking at the computer monitors, checking what time it is, like how long do I go home, sort of thing. Like for me, there's just not enough hours in the day.
yeah, same, agreed. I think the excitement as well, like you're excited about it, you've gotten the results, but I
Yeah,
think not losing track of or focus on what it is that you're moving towards as well, because there are setbacks. You've had a good run the last few years, and I'm sure there's other, we've just seen the tip of the iceberg. This is Graham's great deal that he's done, but we haven't seen all the crap you've had to go through to get there. So I think that's also what people are missing. We see it's kind of like the Instagram models, but you only see the photo. People only see that edited airbrush photo or the magazine of the of this celeb that's got this really good life, but you don't see behind, you don't see all the hard work they do. You know, you don't see what their life is really like, because there is what you said, you know, you struggle to turn off, but it's because you're excited. It's like, I heard someone say a little while ago, I'm like, think about every day as if you're getting up to go on an overseas holiday. Like, you're going to be getting up early, you're going to be excited, you're not going to be able to sleep that night. So imagine if you were doing that with your work, with something that you love doing. So yeah, anyway,
sure.
I can definitely relate to that. And I think if you get nothing else out of the discussion I've had with Graham, and we'll wrap it up now in a sec. I think if you get nothing else out of it, just take away the why, or think about what the why is and what do you get excited about. Is it, and it doesn't have to be, it's not the property that you're excited about. Sure, you get, you know, to touch and feel it, but it's the end result that gets you more excited. So, you know, my personal, and you probably relate to this as well, you know, we have families, we got to provide for our families. Before I had a family, you know, it was about the vision of what family do I want? What life do I want to create? And the pain of my job was a pretty big motivator as well. Getting out of mine was like 9 till 7 or whatever it was, 6 till 7 p.m. Basically 6-7 days a week. So it was painful. But then also the vision where you see yourself in the next, whatever, 3-5 years and beyond. So anyway, we'll wrap it up with that. Thanks so much for your time, Graham. Hope everyone's got a lot of value out of this. I haven't. It's been great having you part of the course, and thanks so much for sharing your deal and being open and honest with it. And yeah, if anyone wants to ask you any questions, just put them in the comments when we post this video, and we'll see you later. Catch up.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.